mission. Hey. How are ya? Hey. Sweet. You too, boo. Take care. Thank you so much. Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl Nick here, and today I just wanted to talk about a topic that's a little bit heavier, kind of prevalent currently in our world, and specifically in the Christian world. This is not necessarily going to be a teaching or me preaching at you in any way, shape, or form. This is more or less kind of a conversation, if you will, even though obviously you're unable to respond in this moment, but that's why we celebrate things like comments and private messages if they're not weird and all that stuff. So I invite you right now to get yourself a cup of coffee or tea if you prefer it. I don't. And pull up a seat and let's just kind of talk through this together. Because obviously I don't have all of the answers, okay? Obviously, this one short video is not going to answer every single question that you may have or even that I may have. But I do feel that it is important. I think that there is value in bringing up topics such as this that are maybe, again, a little bit more difficult to tackle or a little bit more sensitive, that are kind of heavy to talk about and expose different things, right? Because without exposure, there can't be true deliverance and true freedom from whatever. If this is something you struggle with, and yes, I'm sitting in my car, ignore all the cars driving by. Of course, everyone's out at this time, which normally nobody's out, so it's fine. It's fine. I have some notes here. Yes, I'm going to be that nerdy, cheesy person with my paper and pen and my notes because I just want to make sure that I communicate clearly to the best that I can, obviously. So there are a couple different questions here that we're going to attempt to tackle and more or less just talk through. And that is, one, is it normal for Christians to have suicidal thoughts? And the second would be, why do Christians have suicidal thoughts? And the last would be, how do we overcome suicidal thoughts, whether you are a Christian or a pre-Christian? Is it normal for Christians to have suicidal thoughts? You could kind of answer that with yes and no. No, in the sense that it is absolutely not God's will for anybody's life to take their life, right? To kind of, in a sense, play God. It's not God's will for us to get in a place that we are so low and so unhappy or feel like we have no way of escape outside of taking our life. That is not God's plan. So in that sense, it is not normal, right? Because the norm for the Christian is to be walking by the Spirit, to live holy, right? And honestly, living and walking in the Spirit should actually come more naturally for us as humans because that is the original intent of our design back in the days of the garden when God breathed life into dust and created Adam. That was the way to live in such a way that was pleasing, that was holy, that was set apart. I highly doubt that God's original blueprint of human beings was for them to consider death. Death wasn't even on the table back then, right? So in that sense, it's absolutely not normal for Christians to have suicidal thoughts. And then on the other hand, right, on the other side of the coin, yes, it is normal because we live in a fallen world. The moment that Eve took a bite of that apple, everything completely shifted and changed. Hence the reason we needed a savior in Jesus Christ to redeem humanity, to live the perfect life we never could live, but always have dreamed of. And then therefore resurrect from the dead after he was crucified by sinful man and deposit his spirit inside of us. So now we too have obtained that same holiness, that righteousness that we can never, ever, ever, ever get on our own. We can never strive for. We can never be good enough for. You just receive it. It's a gift. It's like opening a Christmas present. Wow, this is what God gave me, right? However, we do live in a fallen world that is surrounded by darkness. We live in a cursed earth until Jesus comes back and resurrects that as well. And all of creation is groaning, as we know. There is a sense of normalness, if you will, in that regard, because this is not our home. This is not the place we were created for, and there is influences of darkness that can cause us to think things that are completely ungodly thoughts. Where do suicidal thoughts or evil thoughts in general come from? Well, there's a lot of different ways you could break this down, a lot of different things that we could say, and I don't really want to stay on this for too long because I'm more concerned with how to deal with them when they come versus where do they come from? But just to kind of appease and give some form of an answer, I would say, again, we live in a fallen world. Again, we are surrounded by darkness. There's a lot of different components and things that we could say that are the source of bad thoughts, evil thoughts, suicidal thoughts, etc., etc., etc. USA Today reported that the rate of suicide has increased 25% nationally, warranting suicide as a national crisis/epidemic. Someone commits suicide every 40 seconds. Antidepressants are the #1 best-selling prescribed pharmaceutical prescription medication in a nation built on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Something is not right, people. As Americans, we consume more pills due to anxiety and depression than the rest of the earth combined by 3 times over. This current generation is the most depressed generation in recorded history. That's tragic. So I was doing some pondering and some thinking, and I kind of just thought to myself, like, when and what period of life or what kind of events can cause us to become vulnerable to thoughts, questions about suicide and potentially committing that, right? And I kind of came up with 3. Obviously, this is just from personal observation and experience with other people. There could be other causes, reasons, seasons for this, but this is just kind of what I personally came up with that I feel is relatable to a lot of people that have or are currently struggling with suicidal thoughts. Events or periods that are much, monotonous, or major. Much. What I mean by that is when it's too much, when you're going through a season where you feel completely overwhelmed. Maybe you took way more classes than you should have. Maybe you're taking on too much at work. Maybe you're overwhelmed with the new season of life that you're in a relationship or with children or whatever the situation may be. Kind of slipped out of that, rest that we have entered into when we came into Christ. We entered into like that eternal rest, right? And I'm not necessarily even talking about just spending one-on-one time with God, which we need to have and which we need to do, and maybe God's putting that on your heart to do that, but I'm talking about the constant rest that we have in Christ every day, every moment, every millisecond of our lives. And we can tend to forget that because when things get discombobulated up here and you're not being intentional about renewing your mind daily, then you can forget what you have inherited spiritually, eternally. Second, monotonous. These are times that I have personally really struggled with, when life feels so monotonous, when it's just tedious, it feels repetitive, kind of boring, dreary. Life is just like, I need something to change. I need some form of excitement or joy. And you go out and you try to like find that, and you're grabbing everywhere for some little thrill, some little pill of thrill, and you're not quite getting it. Like, you get it for a second when things happen, you're happy because happiness comes when things happen because it's based on circumstances. It's not this eternal permeating joy within your soul that comes through Christ. It disappears and you're back in that same places again, and you're questioning, and then you're comparing. You're kind of waiting for something to happen or for something to change, and it doesn't seem to be, and things feel like a drag. Your relationships feel kind of shallow, and your job, you're sick of it. They don't really recognize their value, the gift that they have in life, that it's literally you are the only you on this earth and you have a purpose. Then they forget that. They don't think like that. They just think they're literally just existing. They're just surviving the daily grind, the daily routine, the American dream, right? Which is more like the American scheme, because it's not as glamorous as it's portrayed to be once you are in it. Lastly, major. When something major happens in your life that basically, in a nutshell, you can't handle, that it's a pain so deep that you don't know how to deal with it and you don't really want to. And that's where a lot of people, when they don't have coping skills, especially if they don't have faith in a hope and a future hope, and that God works all things together for the good of those that are called according to his purposes, or that, what the enemy meant for evil, God can use for good and for his glory. And like, when you don't know things like that and you don't stand on promise, you don't have that foundation that your feet are standing upon, you just want out. You just want to throw your hands in the air. And honestly, even people, like, when you do know that, there are moments where you just want out and you want to escape and you just can't deal with it. You don't want to wake up in the morning. You want to try to sleep it off and sleep through it. And some people literally just rather not be alive and exist on this earth than have to deal with that. Let's try to, like, lift up our spirits here. Okay, so on the flip side of that, how can we combat those seasons when we inevitably enter into one or maybe a combination of those seasons and or events that I just mentioned? How can we raise our defenses? What do we need to do? How can we be intentional? What is the practical steps that we can take to best overcome suicidal thoughts, anxiety, depression, you name it, etc., whatever it is that you may be struggling with? Again, I just kind of put my own spin on it. This is not necessarily, the exact formula for anything, but this is my opinion and what I believe can truly help people, myself included, when we go through things like this. And there are 4 steps, not necessarily in any particular order, but just 4 things that I kind of thought that I feel are valuable. That being community, confession, care, Christ. I'm not trying to be overly cute about this and stuff, and I know it sounds like kind of cliche, but we're just going to go through these really quick. Community. You need to have a solid community. You need to be surrounded by people that are encouraging you, that are motivating you, that challenge you, right? That not just make you feel good all the time, but that are ahead of you to some degree, that you want to be. They're in a place that you want to be. It's going to spur you on to stay focused on things that are healthy. Specifically for believers, get with people that are aiming to live a life that is centered around Christ. I mean, point blank, period. Obviously, you're not going to have chemistry with every single person. Just because they're a Christian doesn't mean you necessarily always have to vibe with them. I don't vibe with every single Christian in my life. It's just the truth. I love them. I care for them. I want to see them do great things, but I don't necessarily have to be buddy with them all the time, right? But find your core people that you connect with, that make you laugh, that inspire you, that encourage you, that you send each other cheesy quotes and Bible verses and all this and this. Community is absolutely so huge. Accountability, you know this, you've heard that word 1,000,005 times if you have spent any amount of time in the church. Accountability, community, it's incredibly important. Find a community that is going to help you thrive in your faith and not just survive your existence. Confession. If you are hardcore struggling with suicidal thoughts, I highly encourage you to talk to somebody about that. Someone that you trust, someone that has integrity, and someone that knows the Lord truly. Be open and be vulnerable, okay? If you are not a part of a church and there's not one soul in the church that you are connected to, that you can think of, that you can confidently talk to about what you are dealing with, and you feel that they're going to judge you, my friend, I think you might want to consider going to an actual church, because that is a country club. The church is made for those who are sick and hurting. We are all a mess. We're all broke. We all have crap we deal with, and we need to be able to sit down face to face with somebody that we can trust and talk to them about what we are struggling with without the fear of judgment and guilt and shame. But someone that's going to edify, that's going to pray with us and for us, that's not afraid to rebuke us and correct us where needed at times, but in love. And that's not going to go air your dirty laundry to the world. Those people do exist. I do promise you that. And if you don't know who you can talk to, I definitely encourage you to pray about it and ask God to send you someone that you can safely confess thoughts, feelings, struggles, actions, things you've committed even in the past that still haunt you with. Care. I think care is so important, and I know that it's super trendy to talk about self-care and blah, 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 blah. When I feel like poop, if I'm feeling a little bit of a gloomy, doomy cloud over me, and then I go work out, I feel so much better. I gain so much perspective. It does release different chemicals in your brain. Look it up. I'm not going to even attempt to explain that. But I know that exercise is good for me. So I exercise as much as I can, pretty consistently, almost daily, because I know that it's good for me. It's good for my mind. It's good for my spirit. It's good for my body physically, obviously. Take care of yourself. Try something new. challenge yourself, go away, like get out. Maybe you simply just need a little getaway and you're like, well, I can't afford that, Nikki. Well, I don't know, figure it out. I recently went to Nashville for the weekend. Do I have tons of money that I'm looking to blow? Not necessarily. Was it wise to do that? Maybe not so much from a financial situation, but I knew that my spirit needed it. I needed to get out. I needed a new environment. I needed to be with some great friends and see the city, and I did, and I felt so refreshed coming back. Take care of yourself. I don't know what that looks like for you, but I know that, the fundamentals, exercise, eating right, hanging out with great people, spending time with God, challenging yourself, being intentional, not overly being obsessed with your phone and being so submerged in social media. It's obvious things, guys, but sometimes we need to reevaluate our daily habits, our patterns, and see what we're actually doing throughout the day. Because you can have all the knowledge of here, what you're supposed to do. Sorry, that cat scared me. You can have all the knowledge of what you're supposed to do in here, but until you actually put it into practice and apply it to your life's not going to change, and you're going to feel the same, and you will stay feeling stuck. And last but not least, on how to combat this doom and gloom spirit, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian that struggles with them. Christ, okay, point blank period. Like, Jesus is the way. Like, he is the way, the truth, and the life. He says that for a reason. He is the life. He is not death. He encourages life. He gives you salvation. And the original meaning of that word is life. It's life everlasting, life eternal. Like, he is the true vine. He is the life-giving sap that flows into your veins and gives you this joy and this peace. Jesus is not just this character for devotions, this religious figure that I'm encouraging you to lean on because it's nice to have religion because it helps you psychologically. I'm telling you facts. This is as if I was talking about the law of gravity. It just is. Jesus just is. He is the savior of your soul, your spiritual being, whether you accept it or not. This is reality. I am a witness. Kanye has a song, something about I am a witness. It's called Sunshine. And I don't know, the words are like, I am a witness that Christ made a change in me or something like that. I don't know. If you don't know Christ, you need to know Christ. If you do know Christ, you need to know more of Christ because you haven't even scratched the surface. And when you start to believe, especially as Christians, we start to believe that we have, we pretty much know everything that there is to know about Jesus and the church and and ministry and blah, 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 blah. You have fallen into a very dangerous trap, my friend, because the vastness of who Christ is and what he can do in us and who he is in his own right and everything in between thereof, we will have all of eternity to explore that because it's endless. It's never ending. There's always more to know and to seek and to be excited about in the discovery of Jesus Christ. He is the one that you need. He is the source of ultimate joy. He is the highest of highs, and he will help you when you're in the lowest of lows. So to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this final motivation, as we have been very practical for a majority of the time here together today. When a person takes their life, they're not killing the past them. That has already been done. That still exists, whether they loved that person that they were on this planet or not. When you take your life, you are killing the potential. You are killing the future you. You are killing the possibilities. You are killing the purposes that God had for you down the road. If you are in a place where you're struggling or you're contemplating taking your life because for whatever reason you're wanting to escape, you feel overwhelmed, you don't know how to deal with the emotional pain that you feel because of some event that occurred in your life, listen to me. It is just a season. It is a season that you're going through. This is a period of time and it too shall pass. You have to believe that. You have to know that. Let's annihilate this epidemic that has swept across our nation. It's time to stand up against it and to realize once more that you are important, you matter, you have a purpose. And if you're struggling with things, it's okay to step back. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take time and work on you, boo. I don't know if you guys have heard the story of Katie Stubblefield, but I highly recommend you read on her story. It's incredibly, it's very intense. But it's very inspiring. what happened to her, and she went through a period of her life that was really difficult. Her boyfriend broke up with her. She was having family issues. She was 17 years old, beautiful, attempted to take her life, but it didn't work out, thank God. And now her life is completely changed. She doesn't look the same anymore, but her spirit is completely renewed. And I watched an interview with her, and she was talking about how life is such a gift, and that she is so grateful for this second chance that she has been given. You are alive in this moment. You have breath in your lungs. God is not done with you. As cliche as that sounds, it is true. There's more for you to learn, more for you to accomplish, but you have to choose to do that. My helpful tips today, whatever, take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, I think the main thing is, whether you're a believer or a pre-believer that is struggling with suicidal thoughts or has struggled with it, or you know someone who is, you have to understand that you have a value and you have a purpose that is beyond even your comprehension, that is eternal. It spans beyond time itself. You will get through this difficult season that you are going through. Surround yourself with good community. Confess it to somebody that you trust. Take care of yourself. Trust in and truly know Christ for yourself, no matter how long you think you've known him or not. All right, that's really all I have to say. God bless you guys, and thank you so much for watching. If you have any further questions or any other topic ideas for videos, please leave them in the comments below. I absolutely read that and appreciate that, and love to get feedback from you guys, because this is why I do what we do. Thanks for having coffee with me today, even though I haven't taken one sip since we've been talking. Hope you guys have a great day. God bless you. This is Nick signing off.